Hey, Mel's 602ers. Dr. Palermo with your week 6 instructional message. Hey, there's a lot of reading in the textbook this week as far as statistics, and I want you to be good consumers of statistics as aspiring administrators. I want you, as part of this course, to be able to read and digest articles that may deal with instruction, may deal with your area of either expertise or grade level. What do you need to know? How much statistics do you need to know an aspiring principal? Well, you need to know to be a good consumer again. So I asked you this week in the discussion to check out a standardized test that is given at your school. Um, do you do kindergarten benchmarks? Do you do placement tests? Do you do EOGs, EOCs? I bet you do. But what other kinds of assessments are given at your school? When a child is put through an STMSS or through some sort of screening for special education. There are a bunch of tests that are given, maybe by a psychologist, but perhaps given at your school. There are screening assessments like a Woodcock-Johnson, for instance. There are behavior scales. There are others. So dig out one of these and do a little bit of research, please. Find out what tests we're giving our kids and are they valid and reliable, and what is the statistical significance of the results? How do we use those results? If they're placement, how sure are we that we're making the correct placements with these results? So dig a little bit. Gall, again, very detailed psychometrics here about statistical significance, practical significance, which I think is more important perhaps, descriptive research, that is looking at the mean, median modes, our kids average, and what does that mean, and comparative research. You read, for instance, the algebra study that I posted for a discussion a while back. That was comparative research, comparing the effects of 6 months of algebra versus the year-long program. So again, think about these things in terms of how you might use them as a principal, reading and trying to apply the best practices. And also you are doing some action research. So read here. Over the years, I've been collecting PowerPoints, and these PowerPoints aligned with a previous version of the textbook. Anyway, if you like reading a PowerPoint presentation instead of the text, maybe that'll help. It's a different visual, a different way to go about some of the same information. Not exactly, but so. Is this assigned and required? No. Those are resources for you. As far as the evidence work that you're working on this week, I showed you a chart that you might not have been able to read last week, but someone said something in a discussion this week that resonated with me. That was that make sure you, peer, align your best practices that you came up with in part A of your APTEL with the checklist the graphic checklist in part B. Now you're responsible for peer coaching on C this week, but again, I hope that you remember I said last week that graphic checklist B and the gap analysis and the opportunities, B, C, and D, should be all part of the same ball of wax. Once you have a list of best practices, you're going to try to research and do some digging at your school to compare what is the difference between the best practices and what's really happening at my school. After you collect your data, then you do the gap analysis and look at your opportunity for improvement. None of these sections, in my mind, has to be really long. Once you determine what your best practices are, you're going to do that gap analysis by collecting some data. I know the folks are gone, but think about SurveyMonkey. Think about a focus group. Think about, polling a half a dozen folks that you can get your hands on at the school this week and do that gap analysis, which should also yield part D, the opportunity for improvement. So anyway, participate in a peer review to help one another make these things better. That's the whole goal for me of the peer coaching. Take a formative document and whip it up so that by the time you submit it to me as an assignment, it is ready for a grade and a more summative assessment, right? Some of you asked how many times do I have to Zoom? Well, some of you have been really good about posting your documents on time and giving one another written peer feedback. At least lead a Zoom session per the semester, please. I believe that meets Dr. Neal's expectation, and it certainly meets mine. So if you have a question about that, ask. And here's that dialogue that I was suggesting, interpreting statistical significance. Find an assessment from your school, look at it, research it a little bit, comment on it, please. Is it helpful? Is it practical? Are the results helpful in helping you and kids in schools? Okay, that's it for this week. I'm rambling now. Have a great week. The readings are hard. Do the best that you can with them. Keep up with your writing, please. Keep up with giving feedback to peers, at least in writing, and Zoom once per semester. Thank you. Have a great week.